Good evening and welcome to our daily devotional reading. Goeiemorgen. It is a good day today. I hope you are well. Let's open our hearts and minds. Turn inward and listen to Plato. Stranger, how does man walk but as a diameter whose power is 2 feet? Young Socrates. Just so. And the power of the remaining kind, being the power of twice 2 feet, may be said to be the diameter of our diameter. Socrates. Certainly. And now I think that I pretty nearly understand you. Remember, it's young Socrates. I should have said young Socrates. If I haven't, I'm not sure. This is a mathematical joke. I will read you the explanation afterwards. It's not very funny. At least I don't think it's very funny. But maybe you think it's funny. Stranger. In this division, Socrates, I see what would make another famous jest. Young Socrates. What is it? Stranger. Human beings have come out in the same class with the freest and airiest of creation, and have been running a race with them. Young Socrates. I remark that very singular coincidence. Stranger. And would you not expect the slowest to arrive last? Indeed I would, or should. Stranger. And there is a still more ridiculous consequence, that the king is found running about with the herd and in close competition with the bird catcher, who of all mankind is most of an adept at the airy life. The other translation is quite different. And this translation explains why. I will read that as well. Plato is here introducing a new subdivision, that of two-legged, bipeds, into men and birds. Others, however, refer the passage to the division into quadruplets and bipeds, making pigs compete with human beings and the pig driver with the king. According to this explanation, we may translate the words above, freest and airiest of creation, as worthiest and laziest of creation. Young Socrates. Certainly. Stranger. Then here, Socrates, is still clearer evidence of the truth of what was said in the inquiry about the sophist. What? That the dialectical method is no respecter of persons, and does not set the great above the small, but always arrive in her own way at the truest result. Clearly. And now I will not wait for you to ask, but will on my own accord take you by the shorter road to the definition of the king. By all means. I say that we should have begun at first by dividing the land animals into bipeds and quadrupeds, and since the winged herd and that alone comes out of the same class with man, we should divide bipeds into those which have feathers and those which have not. And when they have been divided, and the art of the management of mankind is brought to light, the time will have come to produce our statesman and ruler, and set him like a charioteer in his place, and hand over to him the reins of state. For that too is a vocation which belongs to him. Young Socrates. Very good. You have paid me the debt. I mean that you have completed the argument, and I suppose that you added the digression by way of interest. Stranger. Then now let us go back to the beginning and join the links which together make the definition of the name of the statesman's art. Let's go back to the beginning and join the links. By all means, the science of pure knowledge had, as we said originally, a part which was the science of rule or command. The science of pure knowledge would be Gnostikos. And from this was derived another part, which was called command for self. On the analogy of selling for self, an important section of this was the management of living animals, and this again was further limited to the management of them in herds, and again in herds of pedestrian animals. The chief division of the latter was the art of managing pedestrian animals which are without horns, and again as a part which can only be comprehended under the one term by joining together three names, shepherding purebred animals. The only further subdivision is the art of man-herding. This has to do with bipeds and is what we are seeking after and have now found being at once the royal and political. To be sure. And do you think, Socrates, that we really have done as you say? What? Do you think I mean that we have really fulfilled our intention? There has been a sort of discussion, and yet the investigation seems to me not to be perfectly worked out. This is where the inquiry fails. Young Socrates. I do not understand. Stranger. I will try to make the thought, which is at this moment present in my mind, clearer to both of us. Let me hear. There were many arts of shepherding, and one of them was the political, which had the charge of one particular herd. Yes. And this the argument defined to be the art of rearing, not horses or other brutes, but the art of rearing man collectively. True. Note, however, a difference which distinguished the king from all other shepherds. To what do you refer? I want to ask whether any one of the other herdsmen has a rival who professes and claims to share with him in the management of the herd. What do you mean? I mean to say that merchants, farmers, providers of food, and also training masters and physicians will all contend with the herdsmen of humanity, whom we call statesmen, declaring that they themselves have the care of rearing or managing mankind, and that they rear not only the common herd, but also the rulers themselves. Are they not right in saying so? Democracy. Stranger. Very likely they may be, and we will consider their claim, but we are certain of this, that no one will raise a similar claim as against the herdsman who is allowed on all hands to be the sole and only feeder and physician of his herd. He is also their matchmaker, and no one knows that department of science. And he is their merrymaker and musician, as far as their nature is susceptible to such influences. And no one can console and soothe his own hurt better than he can, either with the natural tones of his voice or with instruments. And the same may be said of the tenders of animals in general. Very true. But if this is as you say, can our argument about the king be true and unimpeachable? Were we right in selecting him out of 10,000 other claimants to be shepherd and rearer of the human flock? Surely not. Had we not reason just to know? I don't think this sentence makes sense. Had we not reason to apprehend that although we may have described a sort of royal form, we have not as yet accurately worked out the true image of the statesman, and that we cannot reveal him as he truly is in his own nature until we have disengaged and separated him from those who hang about him and claim to share in his prerogatives. Very true. And that, Socrates, is what we must do, if we do not mean to bring disgrace upon the argument at its close. We must certainly avoid that. Then let us make a new beginning and travel by a different road. What road? I think that we may have a little amusement. The other translation has it as an element of play. There is a famous tale, of which a good portion may with advantage be interwoven, and then we may resume our series of divisions, and proceed in the old path until we arrive at the desired summit. Shall we do as I say? By all means. Listen then to the tale which a child would love to hear, and you are not too old for childish amusements. Let me hear. Stranger. There did really happen, and will again happen, like many other events of which ancient tradition has preserved the record, the portent which is traditionally said to have occurred in the quarrel of Atreus and Thyestes. You have heard, no doubt, and remember what they say happened at that time. I suppose you mean the token with the birth of the golden lamb. No, not that, but another part of the story, which tells how the sun and the stars once rose in the west and set in the east, and that the god reversed their motion and gave them that which they now have as a testimony to the right of Atreus. Yes, that is that legend also. There is that legend also. Again, we have been often told of the reign of Kronos. Yes, very often. Did you ever hear that the men of former times were earthborn and not begotten of one another? Yes, that is another old tradition. All these stories and 10,000 others, which are still more wonderful, have a common origin. Many of them have been lost in the lapse of ages and are repeated only in a disconnected form. But the origin of them is what no one has told, and may as well be told now. For the tale is suited to throw light on the nature of the king. Very good, and I hope that you will give the whole story and leave out nothing. That is for tomorrow. Thus far our scripture of the evening. Come on, love, let me tell you a tale. So, the math joke. In Greek mathematical parlance, having the power of 2 feet is the way of expressing the length of the diagonal of a 1 foot square, e.g. in modern times, the square root of 2. Square root, right? That's how you say it. That thing again. The expression reflects the fact that a square formed on this line will have an area of 2 square feet. The diagonal of this square will then have the power of 4 feet, the power of the diagonal of our power, in the visitor's next remark. All this is for the sake of the pun on power and feet. We humans are enabled to move by having 2 feet, while the members of the remaining class, from which we are being distinguished, pigs in this translation, have 4. Although the other one indeed goes with the birds. And they're also bipedal. Bipedal, that's how I say it, right? When I see it written down, it confuses me. But I do like the bird one, although later he comes back to the birds and man being a bipedal without feathers. And of course, then one has to think of Diogenes. I think it's Diogenes, right? Who walked into the academy plugged with a chicken, plucked out the poor chicken's feathers there and then, lifted it in the air and says, "Behold, man." I think that is funnier than the math joke. But maybe I'm just not smart enough for the math joke. Luckily, no one cares how smart anyone is, apparently. According to Folly. I wrote down, dialectic arrives at the truest result. And which actually connects with this, to make the thought present in the mind clearer to both interlocutors. I don't know how other people do dialectic. I only know John's way. And it is a very particular practice of dialectic into dialogos, very structured. I listened to some of his further along in his series today. Oh, he talked about Simone Weil, which I thought was interesting. I can't remember speaking of her much in the past. So it was interesting that now that I have encountered her more intimately, but I have before. I hear him speak of her. Maybe I just didn't notice in the past. That could very well be the case. Oh, that wasn't what I wanted to say about his lecture. What I wanted to say is he spoke of dialectic into dialogos in the lecture that I watched today, and how it's used as a therapeutic, or they're trying to structure it or form it or see how it could possibly be used as a therapeutic method. And he mentioned it's very structured, that it's better suited to those, because we're all on the scale, right? Those further along the autistic side than on the psychotic side. And I can totally see that when you interact with someone, when you play the game with someone who's a bit shy of rules, they do tend to go off in all directions, and you need to really reel them in. But yeah, dialectic arrives at the truest result, to make the thought present in the mind clearer to both. And that is very true. As I've mentioned before, the people that I've practiced it with, many people on a weekly basis, different groups. And you always come out knowing more of what you are thinking than you did before. So a shout out to the dialectic into dialogos practice. The Shepherd King, of course, jumped out at me. I will not be able to not see him everywhere. And also when the passage of how the herd is calmed by his voice. I can't think of I'm trying to translate it in my mind. My flock, my herd, my sheep. That doesn't sound so nice, but I think that is it. Know my voice, and they will follow, and they will come through the gate. Is that the passage where someone quoted incorrectly? For I am the way, the truth, and the life. Not the light. I don't know if those, I think in my mind it's in the same. And for some reason John 16 comes to mind, but I really do not know that is the case. Oh, my holy books are over there. It's John, that's for sure. At least I think so. It feels Johnian. And not John Vervaeke. John the beloved apostle. And then we start with a story, which we will continue tomorrow. The story of the time of Kronos. This, my darlings, is a Kairos time. Tonight is new moon. Let us make a new beginning and travel by a different road. The stranger said, and I say, I, stranger, Amen. May the spirit of Sophia walk with us.